Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Dumb SEO Questions, episode 219. Each week we meet here to discuss or to answer questions asked on the SEO Questions community on Google+, the Facebook page, Dumb SEO Questions, and also on Twitter, Dumb SEO QS. With us tonight, we have Masataki Wasa. Masataki is webmaster of wasaweb.net in the UK. He's also a Google top contributor on the Google AdSense community. And Masa can be found at wasaweb.net. Tim Capper is CEO of Online Ownership in the UK. He's also a Google top contributor on the Google My Business community, and Tim can be found at onlineownership.com. All right, let's look to our first question. What's going on here? I'm just getting okay. All right, the first question we have is from Valentina Huff. Valentina asks, how do you remove URLs from a sitemap file? For example, if you delete certain URLs, how do you reflect this or update it in your sitemap file? Our sitemaps are automatically generated / updated via a plugin on the website. Anybody?
Hang on. Well, if your sitemap's generated by a plugin, then we can see that, Jim.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah, it's just you're going to type in a password in a second. Well, if it's generated by a plugin, obviously I don't know what you're using, but if it's generated a plugin, check your plugins. Check your plugins settings. If that doesn't allow you to select particular pages not to be included, then I would suggest you switch over to Yoast, perhaps, if you're using a plugin. I'm assuming you're on WordPress. And there you can either select categories or taxonomies to be included or not included within sitemap, and you can even select on a page-by-page level which or which not to include in your sitemap. So firstly, check those settings if they allow you to, and if not, it's just maybe switching to Yoast, which will set via either categories, archives, taxonomies, all sorts of different variables, but also it allows you on a page-by-page basis to include it within sitemap or not.
That's pretty much what I was going to say.
All right.
Yoast is probably
you go ahead.
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely correct. I think that's where Yoast is going to be able to have a little more control of that.
All right. Let's call that an answer for Valentina, and we thank her for her question. This one here is a new thing that we intend to do from now on, or we might pause it over the holidays because Tim will be in South Africa. As well as answering the questions each week that are directly asked on the SEO Questions community, we want to address topics in depth, and we'll attempt to choose some topics, or you can lodge it, ask for us to cover one. But anyway, the issue that we want to cover in depth this week is manual penalties in the Search Console. I won't try to read it all out, but I'll throw it open to you guys to talk about it.
Yeah, so the two that I'm seeing, manual penalties that I'm seeing flying about at the minute, is structured data, spammy structured data, and also this one that I've mentioned here, which was for pure spam. We can see your email, Jim. The one I was, this one I was actually looking at is connected with part of a suspension of a Google My Business page, was because there was obviously other factors with the business page, but part of the reason was also because of that their website had a manual penalty for pure spam, which is quite interesting in the sense that a manual penalty for pure spam is generally when a site uses techniques that are sort of creating auto-generated or scraped pages, either hidden content on pages, like just the really old kind of 80s crap where you would keyword stuff an entire page at the bottom of it, but obviously the page, the text color would be white, so it wasn't actually visible. Sort of like sneaky redirects, hidden text links, so that is generally what pure spam is. But with this particular site, and I did kind of include what it was, it's literally a 5-page site. And I couldn't find anything in the sense of what generally is found or attributed to a pure spam manual penalty. Following on from that, I found one of their party sites, which in itself wouldn't really fall under pure spam kind of site. It did have some pretty crappy, sort of doorway pages into it, but nothing that was kind of auto-generated or scraped content. However, it did link from all pages. There was a link saying our indoor location, and the indoor location didn't take you to a page, but just redirected to that to the other site. I'm wondering whether that was the cause, being it's not a great site in its entirety. It's not canonicalized properly, so essentially you've got two versions running, dub and non-dub, across all pages, with this direct link from our indoor location to the other little 5-page site. And I have asked, obviously, the user to, one, connect the party site to Search Console, and two, to create an actual page which just dictated that this is our indoor venue, opening times, closing, just the usual proper landing page, so that there's essentially just one link coming out of the site to their actual indoor store, their actual location store, and then to request reconsideration on the main one, and to see whether that was it. So essentially what I'm saying is this kind of didn't fall under the pure spam, from what I understand as pure spam, penalty, but in terms of a sort of redirect. So could that potentially have been it coming not from a great location across two same domains to that? Could that have caused this manual penalty? Not entirely sure on that one at the minute. Did anyone have a chance to look at the two sites?
I have to confess I didn't, Tim.
Okay, so then moving on, and then hopefully maybe someone will have a look at that at some point then. The other one that I'm seeing a lot of is in terms of structured data, spammy structured data, as they call it. Essentially, what's happening here is Google webmasters or the webmaster team were warning about this for in advance, and they've basically said, right, you need to sort out your structured, your rich snippets. 9 times out of 10, the ones that I've seen is only to do with reviews. And what tends to happen is someone will, let's say, on a product, or maybe they've got one product or one service or whatever the case may be. So they've got 5 reviews or something like this. So 5-star reviews out of 5 on essentially what's a one service or maybe one product. They may have hundreds of products, and what essentially they're doing is they're marking up those reviews, but then it's going site-wide or across all products when those reviews actually only relate to one product or a particular service. So now, warning us for months now, they've started to roll this out, and they're saying, so what they're kind of saying is, so I'll give you an example on my site. So I obviously provide a SEO service, and my reviews obviously relate to my SEO service. Now, my homepage is generally a homepage. I don't have my services on there. You can then link through to my services. Pages aren't services. You know what I mean? They're information. They're articles. And neither is my contact page or my about page or, the other pages like that. So essentially, out of my entire site of, let's say at the minute, 2,000 pages, only 3 are actual service pages. So those 3 should essentially only have the review markup on, not every single one, which people have tended to do. And they'll create the markup, they'll chuck it in site-wide and then forget about it. And they had the lovely little stars appearing on all their pages, where essentially it should only appear on the pages that those reviews were meant for. So that's in terms of like a business or your services. The other thing is, if you've got an e-commerce site, for example, with loads of products, there it shouldn't even be across all the products. Your markup should only pertain to the reviews for that page, that particular page. So one may have it, one product that nobody's ever reviewed, that shouldn't have markup on. But one product that's got 4 or 5 reviews, that should be marked up correctly for the 4 or 5 pertaining reviews on that product. And then the other product that's only got 2 should only be marked up with the 2 reviews. So essentially, it's the markup should relate to what particular page, you know, and not product wide. Or, you know, some were doing category wide. You know, so for example, if the tables, if they've got like 500 tables, but what they would do is they would take the review markup for a category and apply it to all those category pages, you know, because these reviews were for a table, but no, it has to relate to that particular. So so yeah, those are the two that I'm seeing at the minute.
Cool, Tim. No, it's okay. Forget that. Masataki, you wanted to say something, I think?
Yeah, I'm going back to the two sites, the party sites. Have they removed the indoor center from the second site? Or am I not?
I did mention last week when I was writing this up, so they may have done. I haven't checked.
Yeah, so these two are essentially the same. Is it? Or is it the same people running the
yeah
thing, trading under two different names? Because I think you said that.
So no, they've removed it. They've removed it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, so he's taken my advice there. I mean, I did say just to actually make it a proper terrible sites. No, he has removed. My advice was to either create the single page or, you know, and then reapply. But yeah, so essentially the party site is their online where you can just go and hire.
Right.
The actual other one, the Moose Magoo, is the actual shop they have, which is, I don't know what you would call like an indoor fun zone or whatever you would call it. The original one was just online.
Right. So the one is essentially, you buy the stuff, and the other is where you go in to have fun.
Yes, yes. So you would hire the first one, and then of course as they grew or whatever, they decided, I think it was only sort of a year ago, they found a unit that was large enough and they've kept an indoor fun zone where you go, the kids go and they run and bounce and run around. And
yeah, so then the natural question that I would have is that, why are they trying to separate into two different businesses? I mean, because it seems to me that they're selling the same thing, essentially. One selling experience, the other selling equipment. Why don't you come along, test it, have fun with us, then you know what you're going to get. And then you can do online, sales as well, separately. But I think, there's this, I think there's a high probability that these two different businesses actually go together very well. So it seems to me odd that they seem to have gone down this route of creating two different sites, two different addresses as far as I can see, and two different phone numbers. I mean, why did they have to do that?
I don't know. You never know. I don't know. This could have been one partner that moved away with his things and one's gone and created an indoor. I don't know. I have no idea the ins and outs. This only came in the forum, and of course in the forum, you have a look around, and it's not as if you can pick up the phone and speak to him. They are both in a terrible state, really. The one was that Moose Magoo's used to be a bar, and I still found a few links hanging about from 10 years ago when it was a bar, when it was Moose Magoo's Bar and Grill.
Right.
And it lay, looking at Wayback Machine, it lay dormant for 5 years. It was parked for 5 years. And and then he obviously purchased it and put his Moose Magoo fun zone on it. I was looking there in case there was any sort of weird stuff that had been created over the years, but looking at Wayback Machine, even when it was a bar and grill, it was literally a 2-pager, you know, nothing weird.
Okay. William, did you want to add anything to this? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, the other bit to it was the reason it came to the GMB forum was because the unit where what they took over also used to be a fun zone. And the way this all came about was when he had tried to create his, and obviously it would be on the same, it was a different name, obviously, but same address, same category, different phone number. But because the same category at the same address, it kind of, it obviously flagged it up. And then of course there was the website which came with it. The funny thing is that the previous owner switched theirs to an SAP, but are still using the original address in their verified page. So because there was originally another verified page, same category, same address, different phone number, that automatically flagged that up. And then of course, in trying to figure out why that it was originally suspended, this came up. So it's like got a whole wealth of kind of issues around it, from the previous owner refusing to, well, at least business support now have actually emailed him and said, look, you've got sort of like 10 days to change your address on there, or else we're going to, you know, unverify this page and change it for you. So there's a wealth of issues around this poor guy trying to get his thing. And I tell you what, you know, looking at these sites, I certainly was in a good mind to email these people that's in their footer, you know, who said they designed these sites, because my gosh, they are absolutely horrendous.
Yeah, the copyright year is still 2015. It doesn't look like something from 2000 or even the late 1990s.
Yeah, yeah. You know, all of them, they're both run on dub and non-dub. They're not properly canonicalized. I mean, even the front page of this party one, what the heck is this amusement device compliance massive great freaking link under there? I was like, whoa, you know, couldn't you have just put that into a nice little button?
And then they have some sort of, you know, icon or, you know, seal or something that says, you know,
I know. Even if this was just a pure HTML, you could have just done, you know, button type equals button and just put it in that. But no. Yeah, they look terrible. But, you know.
I think the only thing I'd add, Tim, is right here, Echo, is basically there's a whole bunch of different penalties, right? There's a link I added to the comments that had so many different messages. They got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 10 different manual action messages that you'll get in Search Console, right? So the one I've been seeing a lot with is hack sites. You know, it's just a simple, it's taken over. And then, you know, Google's been pretty quick on how fast that they've actually been able to detect that now. And then, of course, you get that little message down when somebody actually does a search and then your listing shows up after the query. You know, you get to see that little message that says this site might be hacked, and it's in red. So most of the time, people are not going to click on that one. But as long as you have, you know, you're verified, right? So that's a big thing. Verify with Google Search Console, and making sure that, you know, because they're going to send you that message in the email. right? As long as you've got everything set up, it's. But they've been able to pick that up within like 3, maybe 4 days. So as soon as it gets hacked, you got about 3 to 4 days so far, from what I've seen, to be able to get it cured. Other ones are that I've seen, user-generated spam. That's a pretty hot, hefty one. But I think that one comes in. You'll normally see that one when you get hacked as well. So a lot of the times they're just like injecting pages and doing whatever that they're going to do to you. A lot of the other ones I haven't really seen lately, like cloaking, or I mean, we know about the unnatural links, right? So that's going to be Penguin modified. Hidden text link, we've known about that in keyword stuffing. So a lot of those are basically the different ones.
There's a lot of you've got user-generated spam, you've got pure spam, there's thin content with little or no added value, there's unnatural links to your site, there's unnatural links from your site, there's hidden text and or keyword stuffing, there's unnatural links to the site, impact links, and spammy structured markup.
Yes.
I don't know of any others at the minute.
Well, on Search Engine Journal, that's where I was able to pull the list. I put a link to it in the show notes, but and that has kind of all of them there, and then also kind of talks about like the common ways that you're going to see these with screenshots. Kind of goes through a little bit more detail for you. That's
only 5 there.
Let's see, on the one that I've got, the one for Search Engine Journal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12. So I've got hacks on my list here. I've got hack sites, user-generated spam, spammy free hosts, spammy structured markup, unnatural links to your site, thin content with little or no added value, cloaking or sneaky redirects, cloaking first click free violation, don't know what that one is, unnatural link to your website, which is pure spam, cloaking images, and hidden text or keyword stuffing.
Yeah.
Quite a long list, but I mean that's if you're doing everything right. Like going back to your piece that you found in the forum, going back to that, wanting to send an email, I'm sure, to the web host or web marketer. Say, what'd you do? Anyhow, but yeah, if you're connected with your Google Search Console, you'll be able to actually get these notifications pretty quick, and that's what a lot of these companies we see in the help forums. They haven't gone through that stage of verifying their listing, and it's free. It's just a matter of doing a couple steps. Putting a piece of code into the root of the FTP, or even making an entry in your A record for your domain, and then going through the process of looking at it, logging in. And you get a lot more data out of that versus just the penalties. But I think going back to understanding what you got, it's been very, very helpful what Google has provided with this information coming from a console. Because way back in the day when we were building sites and doing marketing, we didn't get these kind of notifications. So I think it's a great gesture from Google to be able to get these as a webmaster.
Yeah.
That's all I really have. It's a cool tool. Just stay away from the penalties.
Yeah. Possible. I mean, some of them are easy to get out of. I mean, I was playing around on my blog. Quite a sure, but I can't remember. Probably, I think we even once in the Hangout. That's probably 3 or 4 years ago. Spammy links from my site. that was a manual penalty, and there was which links leaving one of my personal blogs from those and resubmitted, and it was all back within I think from receiving the manual, considering it in total was 4 days.
Yeah.
You know, so some of them are, if you understand what you're looking for, some of them are quite easy to rectify with either no follows or, you know, fixing them. Some of the others, like let's say for unnatural links to your site, well, that's another kettle of fish. You know, that could be months in the fixing.
Well, and the hard part with that one, Tim, I think is, you know, you might have unnatural links site, you know, so all of a sudden you're already building all of these links in the past, and you have that marker, but it didn't give you a message. And that's where I think that one's a little tricky, because half the time it doesn't actually give you the penalty, but it's still kind of, you're still affected by the penguin, right? But it's not actually giving you that message necessarily. It's not a manual, it's an algorithmic penalty, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes you're not going to see that unnatural links from your site coming into the Search Console. I mean, you do get them, especially if they're completely over, you know, just pure spammy links, then you're probably going to get that message a lot quicker. But over time, like for example, if somebody got hit, like historically, you can look at SEMrush, for example, and look at the decline, and then you can see kind of the pickup, or the decline, and it stays steady. And then you go back to what they were doing, like with Majestic or something like that, and you start to look at their link profile, and you can see that they were hit, and then you basically see that progression line in the analytics, but it just stayed plateaued. But all of a sudden, if you start modifying and removing, not just disavowing the files or websites, but actually trying to manually get rid of that space junk, and you're going to start to see that traffic line come back up, even though it's not necessarily in the Search Console, right? I see Jim actually holding up something from SEMrush. You should pin yourself. We couldn't see it actually, Jim. Jim, you're muted.
Bloody hell.
That's why I couldn't
things when my microphone's off.
I saw the little box that they gave you, SEMrush. You were actually down in the bottom category there. So why don't you show that box off again?
That's all right. Too heavy. All right. So have we covered this? Will we move on? Okay, Tim. All right. I think that's a useful addition to what we do. I'm looking forward to finding out what we're going to cover next. All right. So our next question. Now we have a question from Sean Cohen. A new Relic application performance management tool. I haven't heard of it. He said, anyway, Sean said, hi, everybody. We use the new Relic application performance management tool, officially plating our lead totals in Adobe Analytics. We've tried identifying the bot, but it doesn't self-identify as a user agent in our log files. Any idea how we can identify it to exclude it from our analytics? Thanks so much.
So they're wanting to exclude this from their analytics. There is filters inside of the analytics that you can, if you had the IP address, you can exclude that data from your report just by going up into the admin, go inside your analytics.
So sorry to interrupt you there, William, but Sean did cover that with a follow-up comment. He said, we've tried excluding IP addresses, but we've maxed out on how many we can exclude because New Relic rotates them daily. We're open to another monitoring tool, but preferably one that identifies through the user agent. Thanks.
That's a tricky one, especially if they're rotating IPs. So you don't really have anything to I'd be curious if he could give us a screenshot of what he's looking at and then block out all the rest of the data. And then we can kind of see the signature on that.
Yeah.
Unless there's a marker with a domain name actually hitting you as well versus just an IP. Then you'd filter out the actual domain root, anything equaling, so anything that equals this or similar to .com. Without looking at the analytics, it's kind of hard to gauge what data he's getting to then work with the filter. But the filters normally do work, and then hard to tell. I've never used that software before.
Yeah, look, I think, Sean, we've let you down this week, but I'll republish this question for you for next week. And in the meantime, I'll read up on New Relic. I haven't seen it. All right, let's move on to the next. No point tweeting that one. Well, from Chase Rayner. Chase said, are there people who are successfully buying expired domains and republishing new content to achieve rankings, or setting 301s to existing sites for the same purpose? See, Bill Hartman on Facebook jumped in and said yes. I think that's fair to say. It's still a ploy that works.
Yeah, definitely. I would say the one thing that you need to do is your due diligence on the domain. The last thing you want to do is buy a domain that someone got rid of that's under a manual penalty and you 301 redirect it to your site. That's the fastest way of taking your own site out. Do the due diligence. You know, see the quality of anything linking to it. You know, certainly do your due diligence. But apart from that, yeah, it's a pretty valid way. I've got a selection of keywords into you can register with auction sites. I've got a selection of keywords, and once a month they ping me over anything that's relevant within the domain. You have a look, and to be honest, I've been doing it for, I don't know, probably 2 years now, and out of those 2 years, I've only really come across, I think, 3 fairly decent sites that I was interested in bidding on or purchasing, but I never purchased them. I was outbid. I'm not going to go crazy over something that's okay. That's not going to rock the world. So yeah, do your due diligence, check them out properly. But yeah, it still works and it's still fine.
Yep. I think we'll call it a good answer and move on to the next, unless someone wants to jump in. Nope. Okay. We're running a bit slow tonight. Andre Gergel asks a question: is it actually worth inlining the CSS for the above the fold content? Are there really great improvements? I found a tool which automatically generates it. Do I have to generate it again for any changes I do to the CSS? And he gives us a URL which can be seen on the SEO Questions community on Google+. I won't, it's sitelocity.com/critical path CSS generator. Well, I'd say the answer would be it depends. If it's a site that you're not going to be changing much, then it might be worth the effort. I think that the gain would be fairly minimal.
Let's see.
Yeah, how large is your CSS file? If you have an external CSS file. I mean, if you have huge file, then yes. But if it's a reasonable size, any sort of performance enhancement would be pretty minimal, wouldn't it? I mean, you'd probably do other things first ahead of this.
I think there's a problem with sites like WordPress and so on. You know, they have so many CSS file links, and depending on how many sessions the browser opens, the browser doesn't continue until those included files are downloaded. So you know that can slow the page loading. Whereas if it's in line, and yeah, it can speed it up. But the danger is if you're editing your site, once you remove it from those linked CSS files and inline it on the page, what happens if you want to change it? You have to go back and it just sounds like headache to me.
And that's what I was going to actually end up saying is be careful, because when you actually, and I'm actually running a test on the tool that was mentioning here, but when you actually do anything like download another CSS file or inline, all those different things, you could definitely destroy the website in one swoop. And then, of course, making sure you have a backup CSS to make sure that what you did change comes back, especially if this is on, you know, Funny or your life page, these sites. You know, a lot of people look at it, oh, I'm going to optimize the CSS, and they just, you know, have the tool generated for them, and they plop it in and think that that's going to be the save all. But at the end of the day, they're spending more time on fixing the problem than anything else. I think focused on your content. I mean, this page speed is huge, so all those different elements that you can start to work on. You know, maybe even look, instead of just a CSS, maybe look at optimizing your image. You know, how big are your images? And that you're probably going to see a little bit more, maybe some more weight from Google because of the speed. But I mean, I just be very careful with when utilizing a tool generator to just fix that. Like you said, WordPress has got a bunch of different ones. Joomla. So it depends on what CSS or what CMS you're using, like WordPress, Drupal, or Joomla, or even a custom.
All right. Any other comments on this one for Andre? Right, let's move on to the next. I'll just tweet that. This one, oops, oh, right, okay. So we've answered all of the questions asked this week on our Facebook page and also on the SEO Questions community on Google+. Be aware that you can add your own questions at any time, and we'll attempt to answer them through the week via the communities in which you post. And once a week on a Thursday, we'll join together to address them in more depth. Now we move on to our weekly news roundup, which we pick up from the SEO news community on Google+. Or you can post a news item on our page at seoquestions.com. This one, I see you commented on it, Tim. This was an SEO called First in SEO, based in the USA. And he's so peeved at the result of the US election that he's turning away clients who support Donald Trump. I think it's a bit severe, but I hope he gets back as many as he loses. But I can't see party loyalty as being a good reason to change SEOs.
Yeah, I mean, it takes all sorts, really. I really don't understand his mentality behind it. Essentially, now he's being a racist based upon how someone voted. So, is that the kind of world that you want to live in? You might think you're like this really cool SEO, blah, blah, blah. You may have it in the back of your mind that, look, from now on, I hate anyone that voted for Trump or their business, and I don't want their business. That's fine. But why publish it and then go through your list of clients and get rid of your list of clients that actually voted for you? I mean, really? I just think, right, if that's something that's in your mind, then fine. Just vet your clients next time, and any new clients approaching you. But I think that's pretty, that's racism based on how someone voted. I just don't see what right you have, even if you are approached by someone to say, well, I'm not going to take your business until you tell me how you voted. I mean, it's just freaking weird. I think probably clickbait in a little bit, that's what SEOs do. But as soon as you put it out there, you're going to have to follow through with it. Aren't you?
Yeah.
It sounds like a marketing ploy, doesn't it? So there must be an SEO nearby who's welcoming all Trump supporters. There might be an SEO who only accepts Trump supporters.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a silly thing to do. I think. I mean, fine. You as a business can, free to do business with whomever you like, and not to do business with people you don't like. That's fine. Yeah. But going out and making this big hoo-ha about it, it doesn't sound like sound business decision to me.
Yeah, it's clickbait, but the point is you've put it in writing, and now you need to follow it up.
Yeah, but maybe he knows his clients well and knows that none of them voted for Trump, and said, "Here is a bike I can pedal."
Yeah, sure. The other odd thing is what happens in some, let's say, strange, just weird twist of events that, you know, the area he lives in, for some reason something happens and a lot of people move away or whatever, a business is closed down, and all of a sudden the only people that he can have as business people are people that voted for Trump. Then he'd be in a world of shit, wouldn't he?
Mm.
Yeah, mixing religion and politics usually isn't a good idea, you know, with business or in polite conversation.
Yeah, I mean, this is clickbait in a sense, but you know, it's quite.
William wanted to say something, I think. Jim's garbled, and I think William wanted to say something.
No, I think, you know, you're right. It's possibly clickbait, but definitely the guy would probably be out of business. I'm not sure. There's a lot of people that voted for Trump. Well,
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I pretty much take on anyone within reason, you know. I have my own kind of little threshold in my mind, and depending on what project they come to me with, you know, I have kind of little thresholds in my mind, and depending on what it is, it's have you crossed that little threshold in my mind, and then you kind of make the excuse that you're not taking anyone on at the minute because you're overstretched, and that's about it, you know. But yeah, I think although this was clickbait, I think, you know, you don't want to be associated with something as silly as that. I mean, especially in public, that is never going to go away, because if, you know, Wayback Machine is, you know what I mean? I just think it's silly.
Yeah. I only take on 4 types of people: Mr. Cash, Mr. Card, Mr. Direct Deposit.
That's 3, and you sexist swine.
Yes, I missed that. So thanks, Masataki, pointing out my failure.
Yeah, that's only 3. So what about Mrs. No Knickers?
I retract my statement about sexist.
Mrs. Basic Instinct sitting across the desk from you.
No, you guys. All right, let's move on to the next. And this one is what I do want to push, because it's our good friend Federico Sasso, and he's updated Visual SEO Studio yet again. I have to confess, I haven't really put enough effort into this, but everything I've seen about it is good. What about you guys?
Well, unfortunately, I haven't had the opportunity to run it.
Okay. Anyway, this latest feature to be able to you know, go crawl his site and pinpoint any hreflang implementation issues, that is certainly a winner. Anyway, let's tweak that and we'll move on. Cancel that. We'll go forward. All right, and oh, this one is a simple one. Needs no explanation. Google has removed content keywords from the Search Console. It's not a great loss, is it? It didn't actually mean anything. It was useful for picking up if somebody had hacked a site, because if any odd words appear in that list, you could go and investigate further to see why.
I found it handy because when I ever, when a new client ever came to me, I always would say, right, let's when I was trying to explain the concept of building up, your sort of authority in your site around particular terms and phrases, it was always good to, when you're sitting there with a client to flip over to the keyword content and say, right, so, you're screaming and shouting about wanting to rank for this, but let's look at this, and you've only got one instance of actually you using that phrase or that terminology within, this is what Google kind of sees in terms of your site. And it kind of helped them to realize, oh, you know what I mean? Oh, well, that's gone now.
Yeah, I used it. And one of those ways as well, I looked at topical relevancy. What are they looking? The keywords are going to show what the bot sees, and if the content's not really there, and they're not talking about the blue widget, and they're just talking about some other widget, it doesn't make any sense that they want to rank for that keyword, but that blue widget's not even anywhere in their content, or even theme-based. So that was kind of helpful for looking at that overall topical view, but I really hadn't used it very often. I mean, once you've actually gotten that, like I said, site review done, you can go back and check to see how well you're doing. But if you know that you're actually writing good content, you're actually you're following the plan, that tool kind of should go away. I guess that's probably what they saw on Google is the utilization tool of that section in console just wasn't used that much maybe.
Okay. All right. So we're okay to move on from this one. Yep, it's that time again. I thought it was. We've had people watching us at the moment, and we thank you for that. Your interest in what we do makes what we do worthwhile. We'll be back at the same time next week to do this again. And if you have questions of your own, please post them either on the SEO Questions community on Google+, on Dumb SEO Questions on Facebook, or Dumb SEO QS on Twitter. But for now, it's good night.